Wasn't that a lovely introduction?
Absolutely. I love saying that to you, Judy, Judy, Judy.
Yes, it is. And so glad to have you here.
I am glad to be here.
And now, of course, you don't know what questions I'm going to ask you.
Fire away. Bring it.
Bring it on. Well, first I have to say, Sima, that I was so impressed when you were in that play last week, Destry Rides Again, and you played a gunslinger.
Yeah. Bugs. I was Bugs.
Bugs, that was your name?
Bugs.
How long did it take you to learn how to handle a gun?
You know, I don't do too much shooting there, but it felt pretty natural. It was the holster that I had to get right. They actually had little children's holsters there.
Yeah.
So I couldn't fit the belt all the way around me. I had to hook it onto my belt. And then I gave away my holster. I ended up being lefty in the show. I'm not lefty, you know, but that was okay. That was okay.
So I saw the show and you looked like you had the fun doing the part.
It was great fun. It was great fun. Tough little guy, you know. If you look at Bugs, though, he had a big heart. He was loyal to his brother, but he was a tough little guy.
Tough little guy.
You know how little people are tough sometimes.
And was this your first time on the stage?
Oh, no.
No?
You know, when I was there many decades ago.
Yes.
I always got the leading. I was Gretel and Hansel and Gretel. I was Yum Yum in the Mikado. I've done stand-up comedy. I've done community theater. You know, at various times in my life when it permitted, I've performed.
I don't know why I was under the impression that this was your first time. So when you say many years ago, as a child or as an adult?
As a child, and then as a child.
Oh.
And then in my early adulthood, I became very corporate. But, you know, still actually, you know, for a while there I taught Israeli dance. I used to work with drama groups. And then I got into the corporate world and spent several decades in the corporate world in different parts of the country. And it's only in the last 3 years, really, that I've gotten back into creative endeavors that I'm loving. I've been a storyteller, and I've been teaching dance again. I'm going to be drama coach at Camp Carroll this summer. I can't wait, you know. And my friends bought me some theater games for my birthday last winter. And I was at these theater games with Hit Fest with Josh Pearl. And someone came along with an audition sheet for Destry Rides Again. I said, sure, I'll do that. And so I did. So it's only recently that I've gotten back into being on stage. I love it. And
So let's roll back the carpet. Where were you born?
Was I born in the Bronx?
In the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
I know that place.
Yeah.
I used to have a girlfriend in the Bronx.
Right. But I lived there. But when I was 2, my family moved out to the island, and at that time we
What part of the island?
Ronkonkoma. Now Ronkonkoma.
I know that part too.
Okay, but you pardon me. Ronkonkoma 60-something years ago was wilderness. You know, there wasn't another house within 2 miles of us. You know, it was the boonies. So
you bought a house or you built a house there?
my family had a house there. They bought a house there. And then we moved to Smithtown as we grew older, as the kids grew older and got into our teens. We moved to Smithtown, which was more suburban, which had a temple. I became involved in Young Judea there. I was president of Nassau Suffolk Young Judea in my teens. That's when I taught Israeli dancing. I used to be the coordination chair for the Salute to Israel parade. So there I was, you know, we'd order, you know, and we had parade marshals, all young people who worked with me and helped move the parade along. So we'd order bicycles and megaphones to get out there and be parade marshals. And we'd order like 23 boys' bikes and 1 small girl's bike for me. So I did that for a few years.
And you rode the bicycle.
I rode the bicycles.
Do you still know how?
I don't like to. I walk a lot. I walk the beach. I walk
Yeah.
the beach and I pound out miles and miles. But I can ride a bike, but I'm not happy on it. I'm happier
Because I
walking
used to
fast
ride a
on
bike
sand.
when I was a child, and I tried it as an adult, and
Judy, it's like sex. You're not supposed to forget how.
Well, I'll remember that.
Okay, yeah, I will too if I ever need to.
So, and then now we are up to Smithtown, and
Okay,
then how
then when I
did you?
was 20, well, several times in my life I've been climbing up, and hit the wall somehow and just slid to the floor like a cartoon character. So I was in Smithtown, I had a Regents scholarship, I was going to Hofstra full-time at night. I had a great job with Lee Koppelman, who was then chair of who was then heading the Smithtown Planning Department. And I had a little sports car that had 2 blowouts, broke my arm and leg.
Oh,
And by the time I recovered, by the time I came out of the hospital, my parents were living in Queens. My father had gone back into performing. He was a classical mandolinist. And once the day I got the cast off my arm, I never had a cast on my leg, I had a pin in there. The day I got the cast off my arm, I went into Manhattan because I had recuperated in Queens and got a job in advertising.
that's a very different field.
Advertising. So by the time I was 25, I was vice president of an ad agency in Manhattan. Those were fun
Wow.
years. Those were fun years. I was in my 20s in Manhattan, and I had an apartment with a fireplace, and I blew into upstairs at Sardi's, with all my friends in the magazine world, and I had fun. I had fun.
Yeah.
I was there for almost 15 years and got caught under a full moon in Florida. Said,
Yes.
okay, time for a change, and
Yeah.
went down to Florida. That's where I met my husband. I went back to school there. Actually did graduate work at the University of Florida, got an MBA there. But that's where I met my husband, had my babies, lived on a houseboat for a while, ran
Wow.
a seafood market and restaurant for a while.
Look at this, interesting.
Interesting.
And what
my husband died.
What drew you to your husband?
This is a wonderful story. I think I weighed 80 pounds soaking wet. I used to run and swim with my dog. I lived in St. Pete then, and I used to run and swim with my dogs in Tampa Bay. And there was this 52-foot houseboat tied up near a bird sanctuary out there, a little island, where I used to swim. And every time I swam past this houseboat, someone whistled at me. Am I doing that right? A wolf whistle. And this was like every day I'd go running and swimming. And so finally I decided I got to see who this is, and I climbed the ladder, and there was my husband, my future husband living on the boat. But the one whistling at me was a cockatiel, was a bird.
It wasn't him.
I got picked up by a bird. And now I have 2 children. So, that's all. We got together and we had children. Like I say, I went up to Gainesville to graduate work. We had a little market restaurant. I did a lot of lobbying in those days. I worked, I was in entrepreneurial movements, as it were, and on the board of several projects. My husband died very young, very unexpectedly. And I had 2 little children. I said, I can't go back to Manhattan with 2 kids and a poodle, But my oldest, dearest friend, when I had gone off to Manhattan to be an advertising executive, she married a fisherman and came out to Montauk. So I literally, after 2 years of thrashing around, just being a crazy woman, I'm afraid, I just didn't cope. Packed up what I had left, which was a little, U-Haul full of stuffed toys. And my poodle and my daughters, and we came up to Montauk. And I have now been in Montauk longer than I've spent anywhere else in my life.
Wow.
That's, that says something. That says something. And I
So,
love
did you ever hook up with anyone else?
No.
No.
I was single parent, busy. Went back and, when the girls were younger, I did what I'm doing now, 14 different jobs.
Oh.
So I wrote for all the magazines and the newspapers, and And I did some bookkeeping, and I did, I organized a performing arts program with Montauk Theater Productions, and I was hostess at Dave's Grill. I did a lot of things, but I could arrange my schedule by doing that. Then by the time they got into high school, I became the general manager at Inlet Seafood. That's the state's largest commercial dock. And there I did site development, I did a lot of lobbying, I was on a dozen advisory committees for commercial fishing. I traveled up and down the East Coast as a lobbyist and advisor, did the site development, and did systems and operations, which I love. That's what I was telling you about lining up ducks. I line up ducks. And that came to an end, I got the girls through high school, through college, one studied in Florence and the other one went to California, and I once took 15-year-old girls to Rincon for a February break. That might have been the raciest thing I ever did. The most courageous thing I ever did was take these girls to Rincon. But, and then got them through high school, got them through college, and ended that relationship, that corporate job, about 4 years ago. And now I'm kind of back into doing a lot of different things, nurturing my creative side, having a ball, squeaking by, and doing good things, and I enjoy it.
And where are your daughters now?
They are living together in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, in an apartment.
Oh,
They
my
were just
grandson lives in Williamsburg.
Oh, where in Williamsburg? I think they're on 5th Street, I'm not sure. There's obviously a very classy section, and the section that's first going to come up. That's the section they're in.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting neighborhood.
Well, I have never been there. I just know that he lives there. And the street has a name with the letter M. That's very good. Anybody who's listening will probably know where is your grandson, the letter M.
That'll work. I have no idea.
Well, I'm finding it very interesting that you worked in that environment, and all of a sudden you just left it, and then you just started something else. That's quite interesting.
And more than once in my life, there I was in Smithtown, on a roll, had it all together, hit the wall, ended up in Manhattan, and was there for many years. And did I quite hit the wall then? No, but it was obviously time. That full moon in Florida looked very appealing to me. And what I first did when I first got down there, I rented like jet skis. I owned 10 of them, and I used to rent them. I used to drive a 21-foot rig, back them into the water every morning. I had a big leather floppy hat, and I rented wet bikes. It was great.
Well, some of these stories are similar to mine, of course, different circumstances, but I moved around a lot, and as my son would say, I'm like a cat. I have so many different lives. Yes. And yet, I'm going to do a different venture again.
Well,
yes.
Right, this is not the last one, right? We're not on the last chapter yet by any means. Yeah. And I've enjoyed every chapter. That's, it's not only, it's enriching to have all these lives, but if you enjoy each chapter for what it is and where you are in life.
That's even better.
How wonderful, right? Do I want to go back to being single in Manhattan and running around Manhattan and going out every night? I don't want to do that.
No,
now I get up, I walk the beach at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's empty and it's beautiful, and I love that. And that's where I am now.
And I hear you have a beautiful voice also. You sing.
Wow. I do. I sing in temple, I sing in a show.
Yes.
Yeah, they put a microphone in my hand and I go. I have not an ounce of...
Yeah, like me, I don't need an invitation either.
Right.
So what else are you planning on doing? Do you have anything unusual or different that you haven't been doing before?
Well, I'm running this fall for trustee for the town of East Hampton.
You're kidding me.
Judy, I promise I won't kid you. So,
I
all
kid you
those
not.
years in fisheries, I mean, I learned a great deal. And again, I was an advisor to Sea Grant. I was an advisor to the Marine Resource Advisory Council. I was on East Hampton's fishing committee when they were doing the town and the planning process. So I know my stuff. I know my stuff. And what I don't know, I learn. I'm a fast study. And the Democrats tapped me to be, to run for trustee. And I'm also very proud to have gotten on the Working Families Party. So in the fall, I'll be pushing that very hard. I'll be pushing that very hard. I would like to get that position. I think I can do a very good job.
So
The
that's
resources are important to me here.
That's like you going to be a politician.
Well, I'm trying not to be.
The politician.
I'm trying not to be very political, just who I am,
Well,
and who I am, and put my skills.
Isn't that a political job?
Well, it is a political job. It's an elected position. It's
Yeah.
an elected position, and the trustees are responsible for the welfare of the town waterways, of the beaches and the harbors, and that's so important here.
So what are you
So
going
important,
to?
and the way, and hopefully we can take it away out of the political arena, which it is pretty much. The current trustees, for the most part, they stay under the political radar and they work for the resources, and that's a good thing, and that's why
Oh,
it
it
interests
is.
me. I don't know if I'd have the tact to actually run for instance, town board. I don't think so. I don't think I have the patience. But trustee, there's a job. I understand the job.
Is that going to be a full-time job?
No, it's not. It's not a full-time job. I think they meet twice a month and deal with whatever issues come before them as a body. So,
Quite interesting.
yeah. I'm
Yes.
looking
Is
forward to
that a
that.
paying job?
There is a stipend. It's not much, but it is a stipend, and that's important to me because the town has to value this board.
Sure.
So there has to be
Sure.
something. There has to be something. So there is some sort of budget. I haven't looked into the budget numbers yet. But that's, that really is secondary. The job is.
Well,
to
you must be good
protect.
at math. You know how to add well.
I can add. Yeah, well, I try not to do it with, a dull pencil too often, but,
Well, you have
but
10
you know what?
fingers and
I use a computer. A computer is, I'm very comfortable with using a computer as a tool. So,
Oh, that's
when I
good.
see new software, whether it's spreadsheet software or word processing or publishing software or bookkeeping software, I'm very comfortable with it. And,
Where did you learn that?
God, I don't think I had. My first computer course, which is when I was, in Florida, going to school in Florida, we used punch cards. And when I left Manhattan, which is around 1980, some of the really big publishing companies like McGraw-Hill and New York Times, they were first beginning to get desktop units for their editors. So it wasn't something that I used in my New York days, or that much in my Florida days. Although by the time we had our little market restaurant, we had a desktop unit because I just learned it. I don't know the hardware. I'm comfortable exploring any kind of program and learning how to use it if it makes sense. If it makes sense, and the programs make sense these days. They're all very user friendly, and I'm not afraid of them. So the computer is a tool to me. It's a tool to me. The same way a carpenter uses a saw or a hammer, this computer is a tool. Whether I'm doing mathematical, budgets or bookkeeping projects or publishing projects. When I first came to the temple, it was because they'd lost their communications person. So I was churning out ads and brochures and pew bulletins and.
Oh, so you helped with that.
So I know how to do that.
Well, that's really
It's
nice.
a tool. It's a tool. It doesn't
Yeah.
make me a graphic artist.
Oh.
When I use QuickBooks, it doesn't make me an accountant. When I use, when I write some stand-up comedy, it doesn't make me a director or a playwright.
Oh, you do stand-up comedy
I do
too?
stand-up comedy.
I
Actually,
did that once,
I
many
love it.
years ago.
I love it. I actually have done stand-up comedy here when Lenny DeFina had his show. That
Oh.
was a while ago, but I came on his show for Mother's Day, and we had a ball. So I've done some stand-up comedy. It takes time. It
well,
takes time. All those corporate
you
years,
have to
I
be
wasn't-
written up.
I
You have to be written up.
By
Woman of the
whom?
year. Woman of the
Oh, I
year.
don't.
The most talented woman in East Hampton.
Oh, I don't know. There's quite a pool of talented people out here.
Yeah.
So I just.
Well, there are, but not, you have just so many different ways of exploring, to explore all your talent.
You say you have time, or you either have time or you have money. Okay? I am so broke. I might as well, whatever. If something comes along that I like,
I
give
would
it a
say
shot.
most actors, that they sing and dance and that they write, but you go into different areas also, not only one.
that's true.
The corporate world and
Corporate
politics
world,
and
the politics.
and even in the water. You mentioned something. You surf, or what you do?
I walk on that beach. That's
Oh, you
all.
walk
I
on the
just walk-
water.
Although I walk on water. Actually, I want to get a SUP, a stand-up paddle. I do have a kayak, and I go out on the
Yeah.
pond, but I want to get a stand-up paddle board.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be.
And it's just
I wanna
your.
do that.
Well, you are like an untapped well.
I'm dapped.
And I'm going to work on that to explore all your talents. And I'm going to tell the whole world.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Sima, we're talking to Sima, the Wonder Woman.
Don't embarrass me, Judy. Judy.
So what is your next project?
Okay, let me give a plug for, and I love.
Oh, you didn't even look at your notes.
Well, I've got it. I've got some of it.
Oh.
Part of my skill set is that I have great organizational skills. So when I say I use the computer as a tool, it's because it does things faster and more accurately. So if I set up a spreadsheet of charts or whatever, I'm working with the yard sale extraordinaire for the
Oh,
Jewish Center of the
yes.
Hair. Let me tell you how, this is, the more I work with it, I've always done volunteer work for it, I just go in and tag things and pack things. I have my very own truck, not a forklift, not a dolly, a hand truck, a hand dolly.
Yeah.
I have my very own, and and I'm good with it. So
Yeah.
I've done a lot of physical labor for them before, but they asked me to get a little involved in the organizing. And when I organize something, I kind of step back and get this overview. So here's this project, Judy, that we all kind of take for granted, but what's going on here? First of all, people clear out their homes. They donate fine merchandise. Then volunteers come in, they sort the merchandise, they tag it, they move it. I had the motliest crew to move clothing and things this past weekend. It was wonderful. My daughters and Shelley's son and a friend from the show and Steve, the 70-year-old man, and I had this little caravan of people sweating out, and moving things, volunteer, okay? Then we have the sale, and people throughout the community managed to come and buy really fine things at a really low price. I say, people who shop at Hildreth's and Bloomingdale's probably don't come to the yard sale.
Yeah.
But people who are teachers or store clerks or fishermen come to the yard, or gardeners or landscape, they come to the yard sale and they buy really quality merchandise for really low prices, right? And then come December, the proceeds of this yard sale becomes checks to all the food pantries. So there are so many segments of the East Hampton population that come together to make this happen, but also that benefit from it. It's just a win-win-win situation, and I'm so happy to be a part of it.
You did this last year too?
Last year I was just a volunteer. I didn't do any of the
I
organizational
was a volunteer
work.
too.
Right, I saw you. We were just tagging. This year they asked me to get a little involved in the organization. So the drop-offs begin at Most Holy Trinity. There's Most Holy Trinity, and it works with the temple. And we work with. So the drop-offs begin this coming Monday, June 27th, at Most Holy Trinity from 9 to 12. on, this is where I wanted to look at my notes, because I don't want to get this wrong. Boy, if I give the wrong drop-off times, I'm in deep trouble, deep trouble. Let's see, 9 to 12, Monday, Thursday, and Friday. And in the evening, 3 to 5 p.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And we'll see if we're going to, keep accepting donations for 4 weeks or right up to the end or whatever. We may
Yeah,
cut off
I
at
already
some point.
gave a few months ago, and they took it from me, thank God. Because I said, I can't keep it at home, I don't have the space. So I said, okay, we'll take it, we'll take it.
Oh, that's something we were sweating over this past weekend, moving to Most Holy Trinity now.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
Well, I was doing that last year, and it was a lot of fun, sorting things out, and it is amazing how many things people donate. They
It's
don't want.
amazing.
Some of the things are brand new.
Yep, brand
It's-
new. from
people just
manufacturers
move
and
them, yeah.
That's all, in the box, amazing quality things.
Yes.
Amazing quality things, these gorgeous little dresses that you get for $10 or.
Right,
It's
yes.
just good things, and that's, as I say, so people who normally couldn't afford these good things can get them at the
Yes.
yard sale. And it's a good project, and what happens with the food banks in the winter, they have come to depend on the tens of thousands of dollars that this yard sale
Well, Sima,
raises.
I have 3 plays that I have written, which I'm planning on producing or read, and I'm going to give you a part in every one of them.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
Yes, and I'm sure people will come just to see you.
Well, at least a couple of them.
Yes.
My fan base.
Yes.
Okay, now,
And the show is over, and just expect a lot of phone calls. People will call you up, and you're going to have to write your autograph for people. People will ask you for your autograph.
my one-woman media blitz. Now, the show is over, okay.
Yes.
And now, are you going to get me a disc?
Yeah, I will
I didn't
show you
know.
how to get a DVD. You have to fill out a form. Everything is on paper. I have to fill out a form to get one.
Okay, and let's talk then, if I can now reach down to my stuff here, and let's look at another meeting time.
Oh, yeah.
Our power
Well-
meeting. When do we want to have our, so is it completely over? Like if I take this off, am I okay?
Yeah, if you know how.